Kat's jealousy is out in the open, as she feels like every aspect of her life has been effortlessly taken by Crystal, including Roman's affection, her family's attention, and even the chance to lead the pack. Crystal tries to console her, but Kat's discontent seems deeply rooted. Thank you for your subscription and likes. What would you do if it were you? You can leave your thoughts in the comment section. 𝐿𝐥𝐷𝐻. I grinned at the sight of Roman leaning against a wall. His eyes shone with excitement that his face refused to expose. But I knew him too well to know how giddy he must have been feeling right now. Oh, will you look at that? Kat spoke dryly. If it isn't one of the AAP candidates. How do you feel, hotshot? She teased. Careful, Catherine, your envy is showing. Roman easily shot back. Lucky for me, I look amazing in green. She spoke with a smile. Roman rolled his eyes. He then looked at me and smiled. I smiled back. What do you think, baby doll? I think you should not call me baby doll. I giggled. But are you kidding me? I'm freaking proud, Ro. Then show me. Before I could run into his arms to give him a congratulatory hug, Chris beat me to it and wrapped his arms around my boyfriend. You are quite literally my hero, man. The freaking AAP. Point one for the outcasts. He yelled. Roman tensed up and looked at Chris awkwardly. Thanks, man, but I was kind of hoping to get a hug from my girlfriend. Chris pulled away and shrugged. You get hugs from her all the time. How is that special? I playfully shoved Chris before walking right into Roman's already outstretched arms. I'll have you know that my hugs are magical. I spoke as I rested my head on Roman's chest. She's not lying. He spoke with a chuckle. Gag. Kat announced. Come on, Chris, let's go before I quite literally barf. She spoke as she pulled him away. Get my cousin home safely, Roman. No stops in the woods for mischief. She yelled over her shoulder, doing the I'm watching you gesture. I blushed. Ignore her. I quickly told Roman. He intertwined our fingers and smiled down at me. I do plan on doing something with you in the woods. Nothing to do with Kat's perverted thinking though. Think you'll like it. I smiled like a fool whenever I was with Roman, fascinated by this all-good-looking upperclassman with the most rare eyes I had ever seen. And somehow his interest was focused on me. Hey Roman, congratulations, man. A guy who was passing by called out. Roman gave him a nod of acknowledgement. Roman. A girl called out from behind us. We turned around. A pretty Asian senior girl stood with her hands behind her back and a bright smile on her face. I recognized her as Ashley, the captain of the cheerleading squad. Also one of the candidates that had been announced in assembly today. There was a group of giggling girls behind her, probably also on the cheerleading squad. I looked up at Roman, his eyes were narrowed. Yeah, we were all about to go get something to eat to celebrate with the other candidates. Wanna come with? She twirled her hair in between her forefinger and her thumb. He threw his arm around me. Thanks, but I have my own plans. With my girlfriend. Ashley looked so shocked at the sight of me that it was almost comical. Maybe she had thought that I was his sister. But clearly she didn't think Roman would be with someone like me. She must not even have considered me a threat. Oh, she spoke. She composed herself. Well, it won't be the same without you. Catch you later. She flipped her dark hair before turning to leave with her posse. Looks like someone is into you. I spoke sounding more humored than jealous because I was. Roman and I had been together for almost a year now. How did she not know that? Doesn't matter to me. Roman shrugged. I've got my girl already. You know you don't have to let me hold you back, Ro. You're allowed to have fun. He stopped and took his hand off my shoulder. He turned to face me. You could always tell when Roman was mad. He tried too hard to show that he wasn't. I have fun with you, Crystal. That's not what I meant. I sighed. This is your last year here. I'm just saying I wouldn't be mad if you started hanging out with other people. You mean if I got some popular fake friends? He asked bluntly. They don't have to be fake. I muttered. He moved closer to me and placed his finger underneath my chin, making me look up at him. But they would be. He spoke slowly, emphasizing would. Why is it so hard for you to accept that you're all I want? He asked. I just think you should want more than your girlfriend. I spoke with a nervous laugh to try and lighten the mood. Roman wasn't amused. I love you, Crystal. And I don't want to be friends with anyone who doesn't accept the ones I love. Whether it be you or Chris. All day people had been actually talking to Roman. Roman had a few friends around school, none too close but friends nonetheless. But everyone in school knew him. Not only because he was a halfling but because he was him. Roman wasn't like Chris and I. He was a halfling who could easily pass for a full werewolf. He was good at literally everything, and let's face it, he was hot. Any girl would love to be with him. Problem is, for some reason, Roman was so hell-bent on being considered a halfling, he never considered for a moment that he could actually be considered a normal, maybe even popular guy around here. You just said the L word. I spoke quietly. Roman looked taken aback. For a minute I thought he would take it back. I thought he would realize that those words had been a mistake, that I had been a mistake. Because even though I was infatuated with Roman 𝐸, he couldn't possibly feel the same way. A smile suddenly grew on his lips. I guess the truth is out now. I stared at him, stunned. Are you going to leave me hanging? He chuckled uneasily. I pulled his face close to mine. I love you too, I whispered before pressing my lips to his. Hey delinquents. No lip-locking on school grounds. I heard a sharp voice yell. I pulled away from Roman quickly and felt my cheeks heat up. Sorry, Miss Marin. Roman yelled at the old lady who was on the second floor, narrowing her hawk-like eyes at us. Let's get out of here before we get detention. Roman whispered in my ear. The minute we were outside the premises of the school, he placed a kiss on my cheek. I giggled and pushed him playfully. Delinquent, I told him teasingly. He grabbed my waist and pulled me closer to him. My back hit his chest and I giggled as he held me in place and placed yet another kiss on my cheek. About that thing in the woods. I wanted to ask you something. I want you to accompany me to the AAP ball. That's if you don't mind going with a delinquent. Another kiss. Well, I'd have to get a dress, another kiss. But yes, I would love to. Ephesians chapter 6 verse 11. Put on the full armor of God, so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. Terry scrawled down the verse on the whiteboard as he spoke it. He turned to face us and placed the marker down on his desk. What do you guys think war is? In your own words. It's what happens when a couple of men with huge egos disagree. Be announced. She turned to give Joshua, who was sitting next to me, a sharp look. Seriously? Joshua whispered to himself. He gripped a pencil so tightly. His knuckles began to turn white. I guess they were still arguing. I had spent the whole day with Joshua. Since he wasn't allowed to take part in any physical activity, he even attended my physical class, which I had with mostly freshmen. He was so utterly unimpressed and maybe even disgusted that I thought he would just leave and risk getting shocked. Hey, chicks can start wars too. Andre spoke. The fact that you just used the word chicks right now stresses the whole stupid male's point. Courtney scoffed. He's right, actually. Allison spoke up in a small voice. Queens were more likely to wage war, especially between 1480 and 1912. That's actually true. Take Queen Isabella for instance and her strategies to unify Spain by taking Granada. Joshua added. B turned to glare at him. Queen Isabella had gone through 36 hours of labor to deliver twins only for one to not make it. What are you trying to say? She was too emotional. None of those words came out of my mouth. He spoke gruffly. Doesn't matter. B shot back. The class was silent. I saw Andre lean closer to Allison. Are we still talking about war? Thank you, B and everyone. Terry spoke awkwardly. Now what does putting on the full armor of God, so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes mean? That's your research question of the night.
Andre groa ned.
Do we have to write a paper, Mr. G? Both Headmaster Forbes and May have already given us work to take home. Well, I guess since I'm the fun professor. He paused with a huge smile on his face, waiting for our reactions. We all stared at him blankly. His smile dropped. Do you kids want me to give less work or not? Andre was first. Oh, you're the coolest, Mr. G. Totally. Most definitely. Without a doubt. We all spoke. Terry rolled his eyes. Kiss-ups. But whatever, I'll allow it. You'll do this as a presentation with your partners. Hell yeah. Andre yelled. Terry gave him a look. He cleared his throat. Sorry, Mr. G, carry on. Of course he was excited. He was partnered with Smarty Pants Allison, who he actually got along with. Whereas my partner and I just recently learnt to be in each other's presence. I turned and gave Joshua a hopeful smile, but I was instead met with B's clear blue eyes glaring at me. Joshua noticed my smile drop and turned to look at B. He sighed and clenched his jaw before turning back to the front. He muttered something incoherent. Here's one thing to consider about war. There are always two different sides. Both believe that they're right. But how does anyone know for sure? He paused and looked at us as if that should have meant something, and I had a feeling it should have. Okay, that's all for today, guys. Have a good night. He nodded at me. Lady Luna. I stood up awkwardly. Apparently the Luna was supposed to rise first in a room or whatever customary rules there were. Everyone started to rise as well. Need some help getting to the parking lot, man? Andre asked Joshua, as he watched him use his crutch to pull himself up. I'm good. Joshua replied gruffly, waving him away. He definitely did not look good. You could see the pain on his face that he was trying to hide. Okay, man. Andre spoke, not seeming convinced. Say ya, Lady Luna. Come on, I'll walk you home. We can talk about our presentation. He nodded at Allison, who was gathering her books. He took them from her quickly. She smiled at me. Good night. She waved before walking out with Andre. I looked at Joshua carefully. Peter would deactivate our bracelets exactly at 8 p.m., and we still had 7 minutes. Joshua limped ahead and I followed, walking beside him. Can you drive? I asked, already knowing the answer. May's taking us home. He spoke. He obviously didn't like talking about his pain. Or maybe he just didn't like talking about it with me, which was understandable. Wait us? I asked in shock. You're having dinner with us tonight. Didn't Tristan tell you? No, he did not. You would think the Luna deserved more information. Anita already counted you in, so I don't think you can back out of this. He shrugged. She gets offended easily. I sighed. Okay, I'll tell Aunt Sarah. Aunt Sarah, because Uncle Victor definitely wouldn't take this well. I took out my phone and thought of what to text. Aunt Sarah was also a lady who didn't take kindly to anyone missing her meals. Can I ask you something? Joshua spoke. I looked up at the star-filled sky. Last time we had a one-on-one conversation, it didn't end well. I tried to hide my nerves. Only if I get to ask you something. He didn't respond, he just stared at me. I think I deserve it. I added. He had been a huge jerk to me after all. He relented. Fine. Why did you reject my brother? I looked away from Joshua. I had a feeling I would be getting that question a lot. Honestly, I don't know. I told him. My reasons seemed juvenile now. Unreasonable. And I didn't want to repeat them at the risk of seeming that way. Why did I reject Tristan? Easy, I was scared. But Joshua Melrose probably wouldn't get that. That's how I know you couldn't have been a spy after all. He spoke in a small voice. Rejected or not, the mating bond wouldn't have allowed you to betray Tristan without hurting you. True. If I had intentionally hurt Tristan, I would have felt it too. The mating bond carried an obligation to your mate. I'm sorry for all the crappy things I said to you back there. I hadn't received an official apology yet, and I didn't think I would. It's fine. I told him, even though my chest still stung from the words, I actually wanted to ask you about some of the things you said. He rose his brows at me. Really? I nodded. How did you know that stuff about me? Or rather, my family situation? I played with my hands nervously. Oh, he spoke. You can't tell T though. My lips are sealed. I assured him. They're files on all foreign-born wolves in the pack like your uncle. And well, during the whole Roman investigation, T had a bunch of them in his study all the time, so when he wasn't looking, I took a peek or 2 or 11. He scratched the back of his head. Why? I asked, suddenly feeling angry again. Joshua Melrose probably now knew things about me that I would rather have kept hidden. I thought you were working with Roman. He spoke defensively. Look, I'm sorry. No, you're not. I snapped. I looked away from him. Tears were brimming at my eyes. You shouldn't have invaded my privacy like that. I muttered. You didn't have the right. I could only imagine what he must have read. How he must have looked at me now. His words came back harsher than ever. And weren't you brought here for the same reason? Because apparently your family didn't want you. Crystal, just don't. At that moment I saw the headlights of an SUV. See, I was so mad. By the time May dropped me off at home, it was already 10 p.m. Dinner had just been the twins, Anita and I. Tristan hadn't even shown up. Apparently he had been too busy. The twins seemed unfazed by this because apparently it happened all the time, but I wasn't used to that. Tristan did not have the right to make surprise plans including me, and not even show up for them. I had enough on my plate with the AAP as it was. Another thing that he had decided on. I tossed my backpack furiously on the floor as I walked into my room. Someone's mad. Hazel sang. She was sitting cross-legged on my bed, already in her footsie pajamas with her curly hair done in a bun above her head. Kat was on her bed in the same form and in the same attire. Aunt Sarah had thought it would be the cutest thing to get all three of them matching pajamas like that. I thought it was adorable as well, but Parker begs to differ and getting him in his is a serious battle. Tell me about it. Kat responded. Wanna join us? I'm teaching Hayes some meditation techniques to help her control her spontaneous shifting. Hazel widened her eyes and mouthed, no she isn't. I didn't want to say anything, but Kat, who had a temper worse than anyone I have ever met, teaching sweet, bubbly Hazel how to control herself was kind of a strange sight. No thank you, was all I said politely. I just had a sucky day, that's all. Hazel stretched her legs in front of her. She patted a spot on the bed eagerly. Tell us all about it. I knew she was just trying to get out of cat yoga, and I couldn't blame her. You're literally the only person I know who would be mad about being with Mr. Dreamy Tristan freaking Melrose. Kat spoke in irritation. Hazel sighed at her older sister. Catherine, consideration, remember? Kat nodded. Oh right. She smiled at me, but it seemed kind of strained. What happened, sweetie? Dinner didn't go well. Kat finally agreed to go to therapy again. Hazel spoke, seeming nervous. Kat's not-so-little bursts of anger have been a problem for some time. She used to go for therapy and take some medications a few years ago to control them, and with time she finally found her stride and has been okay. Heightened emotions usually trigger her. I had been so focused on myself that I didn't even realize all the stress with the AAP might have triggered her again. Hazel, we're not talking about me. Kat growled. This had never been an easy topic for her. Crystal, tell us about dinner. She demanded. I took a seat on the bed besides Hazel. Well, Tristan made dinner plans at his house without even informing me, and then he didn't even show up. I yelled. Hazel and Kat didn't react. They just stared at me. And Hazel asked, and he shouldn't have done that. I responded. He shouldn't have made those plans in the first place if he knew he wouldn't make it. Did you ask him why he wasn't able to make it? Kat asked. I didn't like this. Why was she being the voice of reason when I wanted her to be as outraged? He should be doing all the talking. I'm the one who deserves an explanation here. Why are you on his side? Aren't you the one always preaching about feminism? Hey. Kat raised her hands in defense. I am a feminist, but Tristan is the alpha. For all you know, he didn't make it because he was fighting off another rogue. Remember that. It only happened yesterday. Although I didn't appreciate Kat's condescending tone, I grew worried. What if Tristan had encountered a rogue? What if it was as vicious as the one that had attacked Joshua? What if he was hurt? I would feel something, right? Surely there would be some kind of sign if my soulmate was ripped away from me or hurt. I get it, Sirwas, I really do. Kat spoke. But the Luna does have certain duties. And traditionally, you would have been required to move in with Alpha Tristan if you were of age. There are many duties you would have to fulfill now. And you will find yourself spending more time at the Alpha's manor more often. I'll be with you, Avi. I hear they have an endless supply of caviar over there. And a sick gym. And she'll be there for emotional support. Hazel added. That too. Kat waved her off. My point is, the Luna has duties too. Tristan won't always be around or available, you know? What duties? I asked, nervous at the prospect of doing yet another thing I would suck at. Well, the elders and the council usually outline those. It's different for different alphas. Alpha Jean wanted her husband helping out with social relations, but he was also good in combat, so she wanted him front and center in the defense wing too. It's all about how Tristan and you will work as a couple, really. Couple? Would the pack even see us as that, really? Tristan has never really treated me as a prospective partner in any way. If anything, he has always treated me like a child. An annoying child, for that matter. The only time he ever truly showed a want for me was the first time we met. And even then, his want wasn't sexual or anything like that. It was the imprinting process. You found your mate. And you never wanted to spend a minute away from them. Felt it too. Crystal. I heard my name get called from downstairs. Coming, Aunt Sarah. I called back. Your mom probably wants to make sure I ate. I told them. BRB. I rushed down the stairs and realized something was different. I was feeling drawn to someone rather. Tristan. I couldn't really describe how strong this feeling had gotten since he had claimed me. Before, I had been aware of his presence in a certain vicinity, but now I was quite literally being drawn to him. I thank God Uncle Victor was still out on his jog. Him encountering Tristan at this hour on a school night would not help things. I walked into the kitchen. Aunt Sarah was by the kitchen door with Parker talking up a storm about what he did today at school. Tristan actually looked at him attentively, nodding along. When Aunt Sarah saw me, she looked relieved. She pulled Parker by the shoulders. "Hey, Crystal's here. Why don't we let her talk to Alpha Tristan now?" she asked him. Parker was sipping on a juice box. He looked up at me. "But I want to talk to Alpha Tristan." "Why does Crystal get to talk to him?" Aunt Sarah looked trapped. Because he's my best friend," I answered. "You know how Sean from school is your best friend. We're not doing that anymore. The traitor broke my favorite crayon. I cannot be friends with people like that." Parker squeezed the box as he spoke and some apple juice spilt on him. "Oh baby." Aunt Sarah picked him up. "Look what you've done, let's go clean you up. And have a talk about how he's too young to be cutting people off." I muttered. Aunt Sarah gave me a worried look. "Tell me about it. I think his teacher calls him a mini Don Corleone behind my back," she whispered. "By Alpha Tristan." Parker yelled as Aunt Sarah carried him away. "See you later, Parker." Tristan waved. "Crystal." He screamed my name, sounding eerily like Uncle Victor. "Get back in here before 11, you can. Oh gosh." Aunt Sarah covered his mouth before he said something else. I shook my head before walking towards the door. Tristan was leaning against a wall. He pushed himself off and looked at me. "Hey." I folded my arms across my chest. I could see Peter in the front seat of the SUV parked a few meters away. I couldn't tell if anyone else was in there from this far away, but it was clear that he was the driver. "Are you coming in?" I asked Tristan. He looked exhausted. He wore the pack combat uniform, looking all ready for action in his human form. He probably hadn't been wolfing out. "No," he replied. "I told your aunt I wouldn't be staying long." I narrowed my eyes at him. "Why are you here, Tristan?" His face grew dark. "If you want me to go, just say so." So now he was mad. No way. I wasn't going to let my fury be undermined. Not today. I stepped outside and shut the front door. "Why didn't you show up for dinner?" I demanded. I saw the window of the SUV where Peter sat begin to rise slowly until it was fully closed. Tristan's expression didn't waver. "I was attending meetings all day, then I was at the border, and you couldn't call or text or ask one of your apprentices to do it." "Seriously, Tristan. I'm not your puppet, and you shouldn't think you can tell me where to be whenever you want. I have classes and homework and assignments and apparently training as well because you said so." Tristan put his hands in his pockets, still not reacting. "Stop being so calm, damn it. I thought you liked Anita. And aren't you and Mikey friends?" "I do think Anita is nice. And well, I don't think either of your brothers are people I would call friends, but arg. Tristan, are you even listening to me? You made plans that you totally flaked on and you keep telling me what to do and I don't like it." Tristan was quiet for some time and just stared at me. "Sorry." He finally spoke. "Unbe-freaking-leavable. This won't work, Tristan. Not if we don't set some rules." I told him. "Rules?" Tristan asked me dryly. I nodded firmly. "Rules? I don't think you respect me, quite frankly." "You don't?" He stopped himself, looking too tired to argue. "Fine, Crystal. Draft your set of rules and give them to May or Peter, then we'll talk about it later." He was dismissing me. Like a parent entertaining their child pretending to be an adult. "Stop it." I yelled in frustration. Tristan rose his brows at me. "Stop what? Treating me like a child? You are a child." He spoke. I don't know why the directness of his words offended me so much. "I am not." He rolled his eyes. "I'm not trying to insult you, I'm just saying you're young. So are you." I retaliated. He smiled as if amused. It was easy to forget that Tristan was only 22. He hardly smiled. But the few times he did, it made him look 10 times younger. His dimples came out without much effort. Peter had dimples too. Little depressions on his cheek that showed too easily. But Tristan's dimples were stubborn. They demanded a smile to reveal themselves, and whenever he allowed me one, I couldn't help but hope for it to last. It never did. He walked over to the porch seat and sat down. What's the first rule? I was amazed. But I didn't let the opportunity pass by. I rushed to seat beside him. Do you have your phone? I asked him. He dug into his pocket and pulled out the device. Want to see who I'm talking to? He smirked. I scoffed. Whoever's DMS you're sliding into is not my business. I told him as I took his phone and pulled up the Notes app. Tristan had a fingerprint ID on his phone, and about 52 unread messages. I know I said I didn't care, but that seemed kind of suspicious to me. Number 1, I typed, Crystal doesn't have to do anything, Tristan says. That's a bit vague, Tristan muttered, not looking pleased at all. What if I tell you to run because you're in danger? You just won't do it. Okay, in cases where my life depends on it, I might listen to you. Tristan let out something between a grunt and a laugh. What's the second one? Try to make it to dinner at least 5 times a week. I get that you're super busy as alpha, but... Well, you're really pissed off about the dinner thing, huh? He still seemed amused. I rolled my eyes. First of all, you shouldn't have sprung that on me like that. I have my own life and plans, and secondly, I think your brothers were more upset than I was. I said the last part softly. It wasn't my place to get involved in Melrose family business, and I was definitely still mad at Joshua, but I couldn't help but bring this one up. When Anita announced that Tristan probably wouldn't be making it and that we should eat without him, Michael dove right in, but I could see the disappointment on Joshua's face. His face practically dropped after the news. I thought you weren't friends with my brothers. Tristan muttered, looking away from me. I'm not. I spoke. But I know what it's like to hope someone shows up and they just don't. He sighed. You know, they tell you all about how the war was horrific. How scared everyone was. How the humans almost got involved. He was looking up at the stars, looking like he was somewhere else completely. Someplace distant. I was there. I saw it happen. People don't understand that after the war ended, we needed to keep fighting a different battle to keep it that way with the Union. I will never stop fighting so that no one in this pack will ever have to experience war again. If it means I miss a few meals with my brothers, then I'm afraid it'll have to be that way. He was still looking away. Have you ever told them that? I asked. He didn't answer. He just took the phone from me. Number 3, Crystal has to befriend Josh and Mikey. He announced as he typed. I didn't argue or really say anything. I felt like Tristan had just revealed a side of himself he never really ever showed people. Even if it was brief. Very brief. I felt like I understood him more. I was never planning on telling him anything Joshua had said to me. I was allowed to be mad at him. But causing problems between brothers was never something I intended to do. So I just kept quiet about it. Is that why you changed the partnership rules? I asked, remembering how I was stuck with Joshua this entire month. No. I changed the rules because my apprentice candidate spent almost 5 years with a guy who turned out to be a traitor. I laughed humorlessly. Yeah, I can relate. Tristan looked at me thoughtfully, but before he could say anything else, we heard the door of the SUV swing open. Peter gestured to his wrist. Tristan checked the time on his phone. He started to rise. I was immediately attacked by the cold night air. He had been blocking the minute he rose. I didn't even realize the sense of comfort that I felt from being around him. I have to go, he announced. More meetings? I asked Riley. He gave me a smile. Any progress? I asked nervously because it sounded way better than have you found and killed my ex-boyfriend yet. That's classified. Even to the Luna. I tried. You don't want to be the Luna, remember? He smirked. I sighed. He had me on that one. I remember what Kat had been telling me about the Luna's responsibilities. Won't that be a problem though? The Luna not fulfilling her duties. I already talked to the elders. I made it clear what I expected your role to be. I rose my brows at him. You decided what my role would be. Crystal, do you really want to get into this? He asked irritably. Rule number 1, Tristan. You should have discussed this with me first. He rubbed his temple, really looking too exhausted to argue. Fine, I'll schedule a meeting for you and the elders. My eyes widened. I didn't say. You'll have to meet them eventually. He shrugged. Yeah, but I didn't think. Hey, wait. Your grandmother is an elder, isn't she? Does that mean I already asked her? She didn't submit your name for the AAP. He spoke. I felt disappointed. That would have at least been one problem gone. Are you sure? I asked. I know when my grandmother is lying to me. Tristan spoke. This didn't make any sense. If Nana Francesca didn't nominate me, who did? His eyes suddenly flashed green and he got that faraway look. I rolled my eyes. It barely took 40 seconds and he was back. Bridget? I asked, not one bit pleased about this whole her being in his head business. Yeah, I really need to go. He looked like he wanted to say something. I froze under his gaze. I felt like he was going to do something. Maybe hug me. Or hold my hand. Just something that would assure me that I wasn't the only one whose wolf was stirring right now. Maybe put that as number 4. He spoke, taking a step backwards. What? I asked, worried that he had somehow read my mind. Crystal doesn't have to worry about Tristan touching her inappropriately. I would never, you know that, right? I wanted to say something but my body was at war right now, honestly. Did I want Tristan to touch me? It was only natural because he was my mate. Number 5. I croaked out, changing the topic. I don't want to be part of the AAP anymore. Tristan frowned. He shoved his hands into his pockets. I see. Do me favor though. Don't make your decision now. Make it after tomorrow's lesson. What lesson is that? I asked. His eyes flashed green for about 10 more seconds. He flinched. I need to go, he announced and started walking away. Peter had already started the car. He turned abruptly. One more thing. He spoke. You're going dress shopping for the ball tomorrow with Bridget and Nana Francesca. With that, he quickly got into the SUV before I could even protest. Ziv, do you think we're safe here? I asked Roman in a small voice. We were at the site of Uncle Victor's latest project, the mending of an old bell tower, and everyone had left knocked off already. I had stayed behind to keep Roman company. He was in charge of transporting any leftover equipment. I sat in the passenger seat of his truck, swinging my legs out of the open door. I had a notebook and pen in my hands because I was supposed to be writing a report for my English class on the Little Red Riding Hood, the most hated book around here. Go figure. But I got easily distracted as I watched Roman load up another toolbox. Safe where? He asked. As in here in Woodfell. He had taken off his outer shirt, leaving him with a wife beater on underneath. Sweat glittered on his face and I couldn't help but stare at his toned arms as he worked. Yeah, I responded. The war wasn't that long ago. Don't you get scared sometimes? About what could happen if one of the defeated packs decided to rise against us? Roman closed the back of the truck, seemingly done with loading up everything important. Have you been watching that creepy apocalyptic show again? He asked as he wiped the sweat off his forehead with the back of his arm. I rolled my eyes at him. I'm serious, Ro. He walked towards me and placed himself in between my legs. The war is over, babe. He spoke. I looked into his stormy gray eyes and couldn't help but wonder which of his parents he had gotten them from. I had never asked because I knew it wasn't something he would want to talk about. Why are you so worried about a potential doomsday now anyway? He chuckled. I shrugged. Everyone is talking about the unrest with the Reese pack. There were rumors going around that the Reese pack was threatening to breach the Werewolf Union terms agreements and attack Silvercrest if Tristan didn't increase their rations. The Reese pack's alpha is a lazy freeloader. If he's so tired of getting rations from this pack, he should find a way to feed his own. Roman scoffed. And as for attacking us, he reached forward and picked up his bag from the floor of the truck. He rummaged in it until he took out a small square box. He opened the box and took out a thin white strip with what looked like black stickers on it. What's that? I asked curiously. I'm actually not supposed to be showing you this, but they're called surveillance patches. He explained, turning over the strip with the 3 black circles. We're learning how to use them in AAP training. They're still in development, but I could put one of these on your backpack or on the walls of your room, and I'd be able to not only track your location but hear everything you say on an appropriate device. I took the strip away from Roman and studied it carefully. I was intrigued by the thing, wondering how something so small could possibly do such advanced stuff. So you're telling me we spy on other packs? I asked incredulously. So many questions on morality sprung up. Roman took the strip away from me and carefully placed it back into the box. I'm trying to tell you that we stay ahead of other packs. It's not wrong. It's what all top nations do, ask anyone. It's survival. Still seems wrong to me. I muttered. As I said, I'm not supposed to be telling you this stuff. He gave me a soft smile. I pushed his curly hair away from his face. It had grown too long. He was way past due for a haircut. But he had been letting it grow since he joined the AAP. He was too busy for anything really, even to spend time with me. That's why I would find myself following him to work like on days like this. Then why are you? I asked curiously. He was usually tight-lipped about training stuff even when Kat practically begged and groveled for details. He shrugged. I just thought you would want to know. He stared into my eyes and smiled. I love you, you know. I felt blood rushing to my cheeks. I pushed him playfully. You better. He stared at me for a minute longer. I thought he would do something, maybe kiss me. But at the last minute he pulled away. All right. Better get these things to your uncle and get you home before I get in trouble. He announced. As if you could ever get in trouble with Uncle Victor. I scoffed. Uncle Victor pretty much saw Roman as his son. He adored him. All the while, Roman shut my door and jumped over the back to get in through the front seat. Sure, he leaned forward and strapped in my seatbelt. He trusts me. But when it comes to you, there are no excuses. And I like that. Honestly. He continued. I like that so many people here care about you, even the ones you would least expect. I looked up at Roman and furrowed my brows. What do you mean? He just looked at me in concentration for a moment. He then just smiled. Nothing. We should get going. He started the ignition and buckled his seatbelt. Then it all kind of just exploded. Just like that. It was epic. Andre spoke in a loud voice as he explained his 5th grade volcano science project to us. Well, mostly to Allison, but I happened to be sitting beside her, and turns out Andre isn't the type to make anyone feel left out. Oh, I remember. My project was right next to yours and you kind of ruined it. She told him. Andre rolled his eyes as he placed a foot on the bleachers next to where Allison sat. You still won, didn't you? Allison shrugged and turned her focus back to the textbook she was reading. It really amazed me how a calm girl of so little words got along with super hyper, really talkative Andre. Have you guys been friends a long time? I asked. Allison looked up from her book and nodded at me. Pretty much since kindergarten. I was shocked to say the least. Really? I would never have guessed. I mean, I've never actually seen you two hang out really until now. Andre and Allison looked at each other before both saying at the same time, high school. These things happen. Ollie decided to become a full-time nerd and spend her days with her nose buried in books. Andre explained, earning a glare from Allison. She threw an M&M from the pack she was eating from, and he caught it easily in his mouth and grinned at her. And Andre spent his time trying to break all the track records on Earth. Allison spoke. Look me in the eye and tell me that you don't think 𝐿𝐴𝐵 is a werewolf. Andre yelled. I was honestly entertained by their banter and just their friendship in general. What about you, Luna Crystal? Andre asked, turning his attention to me. He had developed a habit of adding Luna to my name like a sort of nickname a friend would give you, and I had to say I wasn't mad. What's your excuse for being a total outcast in high school? Outcast? I wouldn't describe neither Allison nor Andre as outcasts. Andre had tons of friends around him all the time. He was the kind of guy who everyone liked. And Allison had a smaller group but friends nonetheless. Isn't it obvious? I asked nervously. Allison and Andre stared at me in confusion. Realization seemed to dawn on Andre. Oh, that you're a halfling. He said it so easily and breezily it couldn't even be considered an insult. I don't think that's an excuse. He shrugged. That's because you're not one. I muttered. I'm black and Ollie is half Korean. We could easily be considered outcasts as well, you know. But that's just not the Silvercrest way. For once I wasn't appreciating Andre's bluntness. No offense, Andre, but you're not the one who got bullied for it by everyone. Andre looked offended. With all due respect, Luna, I think by everyone you mean a select few. I don't think you should accuse everyone of being horrible just because Bea and Courtney have a history with halflings. Andre. Allison yelled. She gave him a meaningful look. Andre looked away, guilty like he had just let something slip. I'm going to do a lap. He mumbled before walking away. I looked at Allison, but she quickly looked away and picked up a book. What did Andre mean by Bea had a history with halflings? I turned to look at the other side of the gym where Bea and Courtney sat far away from us, or rather me. The double doors of the gym swung open. Peter walked in beside 𝐿𝐴𝐵. All thoughts of Bea and Courtney left when I remembered what Tristan had said about attending this lesson before I made up my mind about quitting, and I couldn't help but wonder what today would be about. Gather around, guys. Peter announced. We need to get right to work. We all started walking towards them.
𝐸morning, Luna.
Peter nodded at me. Still didn't like that. Note to self, ask him to stop. Today we're going to be doing something a bit different and... The doors swung open and Joshua rushed in, crutch-free but still limping. He stopped to stand next to me. I took a step away from him. Petty, I know, but it gave me some satisfaction. I was still mad at him. It was actually mostly embarrassment on my part but converted to anger towards him. Joshua, you're late. Peter told him. Sorry, instructor. Joshua responded. Peter shared a look with May. He looked concerned but he seemed to be trying to mask it behind seriousness. 5 points from you and your partner. My eyes widened but before I could say anything, Peter shot me a stern look and I shut my lips. I guess this is how Joshua felt when I had points taken away from us. Really the only reason we still had points was because he was by far the best in the physical component. I had been hoping to redeem myself and prove that I wasn't such a sucky partner during the theory assessments. Studying I could do. Lifting weights and running for hours. No. As I was saying, we're doing something a little different today. As you all know from recent events, our town is on high security mode. A rogue is believed to be roaming around the area. I could practically feel Joshua stiffen beside me. You guys get a very rare opportunity today. May smirked. No school today. You're all coming with us to headquarters and you're all going to help the Alpha under Peter and I and the security and defense wing find the intruder. Oh hell yeah. Andre cheered. Courtney and B beamed at each other in excitement. Even Allison looked happy. Joshua and I were the only ones who remained indifferent. We had encountered the rogue firsthand, felt the power in his paws. Not to take anything away from the rest of the candidates, but if that wolf could so easily take down Joshua Melrose, we all had a reason to be worried. That's not all. May continued. Peace talks are being held in Calhoun during the diplomatic meeting next week. The pair that proves the most useful in this endeavor gets to accompany Lady Melrose and I. Calhoun territory. No freaking way. Courtney gushed. The Calhoun pack was probably our only rival in the Werewolf Union when it came to size and power. They had great land by the ocean and they actually have the potential to easily beat the Silvercrest pack economically. Problem is, according to Uncle Victor, they have a history of trigger-happy alphas who usually see war as the solution to all their problems. Nevertheless, it's still a pretty big and important pack, and Kat is always saying that if she wasn't to be appointed a permanent apprentice in service of the Alpha, she would definitely apply to become an ambassador to the Calhoun pack because it was sure to bring in big bucks. It took a lot to deal with the administration of the Calhoun pack though, and people who got the job usually quit after a few months. I don't know why exactly. All I've heard is that the Calhounds are a lot. This one is totally ours. B smirked. Hey Ollie, and I could have this one in the bag too, you know? Her big brain can help us catch the rogue before you two even put on your lipstick. Andre yelled. Courtney sneered at him. Lip gloss, and you could use some Mr. Chapped Lips. Okay, enough. Peter ordered. Everyone to the van out back. We have no time to waste. Oh, one more thing. Peter spoke, giving everyone a stern look. We are going to headquarters, a place of utmost seriousness. Please do not embarrass me. No wandering off, no touching things you require not supposed to touch, and no talking out of line. His eyes fixed on Andre. Oh yeah, got it, boss. I will be on my best behavior. Andre spoke with a nervous smile. Everyone started following the pair. I felt someone grab my hand to stop me. Joshua. He looked at me seriously. I have something I need to talk to you about. I pulled out of his hold. No thank you, Joshua. I told him. I wasn't good at this icing people out thing, so I quickly walked away before he could say anything else. For the first time, I was thankful for his limp, which would surely slow him down. Joshua could say whatever he wanted, but what he did would never be okay. 𝐾𝐥𝐻. I could literally feel the awkwardness. Somehow I had gotten stuck sitting in between Joshua and B in the SUV. We were using two-pack vehicles. The first one, which was ahead of us, was being driven by Peter with Allison, Andre and Courtney riding with him. The rest of us were with May. B sat with her arms crossed against her chest and Joshua just stared out the window. May didn't speak either, and I wondered if she too understood the gravity of the situation. She was Tristan's apprentice, which meant by default she had to know his brothers. How personal their relationship was the question. Like, how well did she understand B and Joshua's relationship? We were driving past the town center, I caught a glimpse of one of Chris' mother's employees opening up the bakery. I sighed thinking about how she was probably starting a fresh batch of cross buns. I had worked for Mrs. West for 2 summers in the past with Kat, just to make a little pocket money. It was a really fun experience. I learned to bake a few things and I got to hang out with Chris and Kat a lot. I would much rather be in the bakery right now than in this cold vehicle right now, even if it still meant waking up early every day. I noticed that there were a couple of people in black outfits moving around. Are those soldiers? I asked May. It wasn't unusual to see pack soldiers out around the area, but they definitely weren't taking a leisurely stroll. They looked like they meant business. Alpha Tristan has soldiers scouting Woodfell, May explained. They think the rogue might still be here. Joshua asked, seeming very interested. May hesitated. It was subtle, but I noticed it. It's just precautionary, she explained. I got attacked a day ago, why now? Joshua pressed. Just being thorough. May spoke dismissively. Of course, Joshua muttered. The car was silent again for a little while until B spoke for the first time during the car ride. Thorough about what though? Do you think the rogue could still be in Woodfell? I felt Joshua stiffen beside me. No. May replied too quickly. May, if he's still here I want to know. Joshua growled. I saw May tighten her hand around the steering wheel. He's not. May replied. And even if he was, you guys aren't privy to that information. So drop it, okay? The tone in May's voice was loud and clear. Joshua turned to share a look with B. I saw his eyes flash green. The same shade of green Tristan's turned when he was communicating telepathically. I looked at B, her eyes flashed blue. The same blue as her eye color but more highlighted. Were they really having a private conversation in front of me? Their eyes turned back to normal almost as quickly as they had become entranced. So quick that May didn't seem to notice. My head darted between the two of them curiously. B shot me a glare when she caught me staring and I quickly looked away from her. First of all, I knew Joshua and B were dating, but I didn't know they had gotten to the stage where they could so easily open their minds to each other. And secondly, I wanted to know. I was curious as to why soldiers were patrolling the streets. The last time I had seen this was when Roman had stolen pack information. My point is, the rogue couldn't still be in Woodfell. The land was vast, sure, but wouldn't someone have noticed by now? May suddenly hit the brakes, sending us lurching forward. What the heck? B yelled. Peter just stopped. May spoke in confusion. Surely enough, I looked out the front from where I sat. The SUV Peter was driving was just parked in front of us. May, something is wrong. Joshua spoke, already reaching for the door handle. I heard multiple clicks. May had locked the doors. Stay put, Josh, she told him. The Bluetooth in the car suddenly pinged. May, it's an ambush. Get the kids out of here. Peter's voice was heard through the speakers. Secure the Luna. May immediately jumped into action, immediately stepping on the gas, sending us lurching backwards. May. What? I didn't have time to finish my question because at that moment I saw a large gray wolf jump onto Peter's SUV. Oh my gosh. B gasped. My thoughts exactly. 2 more large grayish wolves creeped out from either side of the SUV in front of us. Peter. How many are they? May asked. For I think they came from the woods. He responded, hurried. I gasped when I heard something land on the roof. Hold on, guys. May yelled before lurching forward and then turning suddenly to the right. I landed on Joshua, who let out a groan. I heard a whimper and turned around to see the wolf on the ground behind us. May sped forward. I saw 2 more wolves chasing after us. Pete continued to HQ. I'll head back to town and alert the soldiers there. May yelled into the Bluetooth. No, head to the eastern woods. We can't have them too close to civilians. I'll distract them. Distract them? How? May asked. I could hear the concern in her voice. There was a ruffling sound like Peter was moving. Courtney, take over. Get your friends to headquarters. I made out his voice with more ruffling. I heard a bang and gasped. It was followed by growling. May. We need to go back and help Peter and the others. Joshua yelled. May's hands tightened around the wheel. No, Joshua. Her voice shook a little. Peter can handle himself. I need to get you guys to a safe place. May told him. We can't just sit here. We need to do something. Joshua argued. I am doing something. She took a sharp left. And this time I had the sense to grip the seat to prevent myself from falling on Joshua. The vehicle bumped around as we drove off the road and into the woods. You want to help, Josh? Call your brother. Neither Peter nor I can communicate telepathically with him right now. He rarely picks up my calls when he's working. Joshua spoke. He looked at me. You call. He gave me a look that I couldn't quite decipher. Will you hurry up? They're gaining on us. B yelled. She was looking behind us. Something I really didn't want to do. I fumbled in my pockets for my cell phone. Tristan. 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 I scowled until I found his number. I pressed on the little phone sticker. The phone rang and for a minute I thought he would not pick up. And he didn't. His not answering. I spoke in a panicked voice. Try again. May spoke. It amazed me how she kept her composure. Her fiancé was out there fighting rogues and she has 3 kids lives in her hands. Josh, communicate with Mikey. Tell him what's going on, see if he can get help. I was shaking as I tried to call Tristan again. I tried to send mental notes to him. Come on. I need you. I need you. I need you. I expected Joshua to take out his phone as well, but he just shut his eyes and leaned back. A second later he opened them. I can't reach him. I was about to ask what just happened, but then I heard a voice. Yes. I had never been so excited to hear Bridget's irritated voice. Oh, thank God. I sighed in relief. Is there a reason you keep calling? Tristan is busy. She spoke in annoyance. Okay. Rude much? Yeah, so we're kind of in a predicament. I spoke shakily. May took another sharp turn. Are you kidding me? Tell her we're about to get killed. B screamed. Give me the phone, let me do the talking. Joshua spoke, reaching out. No, let me do it, you suck at giving directions. B also reached out for the phone. Really? Now. Joshua spoke in irritation. Crystal, give me the phone. I said I'm better with directions. B repeated. They now both tried to wrestle the phone from my hands. Guys. I yelled helplessly. Phone. Now. May's sharp voice stopped the bickering immediately. I quickly and gladly handed it to her. B and Joshua both glared at each other. Bridget, this is May, we've been ambushed. About 5 rogues have infiltrated our territory. What's your location? She had put the phone on speaker. I'm in the eastern woods with the Luna, Joshua, and B. Peter has the other candidates, he's along Diaz Road. Track the SUVs for a more specific location. And hurry. Got it. I'm on my way. Stay safe and protect the Luna at all costs. Bridget ordered. She hung up before I could ask where Tristan was. Honestly, I was scared and I wanted him here. All that talk about keeping me safe and he wasn't here. I didn't want to die. No. Surely God wouldn't let us get killed like this. It wasn't his nature. Bridget was coming. She would tell Tristan and everything was going to be okay. And just then, we hit into something and the car stopped. My eyes widened as I stared at May, who slammed her hands on the steering wheel. Damn it. She muttered. What's going on? B asked. I heard a bang sound on the roof and a dent formed. The wolves. Ah. I screamed as another appeared on the hood and started clawing at the glass. B leaned back when another appeared by her window. So there were 3. We hit a log and something is wrong. We can't move. May explained as she helplessly pressed on the gas. She gasped when the wolf on the hood banged itself on the windshield, causing a crack to appear. I think they got the tires. Joshua spoke. W it now. I screamed. We run. We fight. Him and B responded simultaneously. Run. Joshua yelled. Fight. B exclaimed. In your state you can barely shift, let alone fight. B was right. I'm sure Joshua's cuts weren't fully healed yet, and the stress of shifting would definitely reopen them. I can manage just fine. Besides, we don't have a choice. Joshua, I spoke hurriedly. Listen to B, 1 kicked both our butts, now they're 3, we don't stand a chance. That's because we were taken by surprise before. Josh. B reached over me and grabbed his face in her hands, making him look into her eyes. Do not make me watch you die. The two just stared at each other. Even in this chaos, it really seemed like it was just the 2 of them. I saw Joshua's eyes dart down to B's lips. Were they really about to kiss right now? Guys, might I remind you that our lives are still very much in danger? I spoke up. So it's settled. May and I have got this. We'll distract them enough for you to get Crystal out of here. Excuse me, but I'm the instructor here. May spoke fiercely. I'm going out there alone. You guys get yourselves to safety. I can fight. 𝐵 spoke. No. You think you can. This is a real-life situation. Not training, and I will not have any of you die on my... The glass of the windshield finally broke, scattering pieces of glass everywhere. Go. I heard 𝐿𝐼 yell as her eyes shone and she pushed herself off the seat, turning into her wolf, knocking down one of the wolves in the process. She growled at the wolf before pouncing on it and letting her claws handle things. Come on. Joshua yelled as he opened the car door and ran out. I quickly scrambled after him and 𝐵 followed. Joshua grabbed my hand then went off running, pulling me along. Shifting would have been much easier, but there's no way Joshua could handle that. I heard a thud and was surprised to see one of the wolves had landed in front of us. I quickly took a look behind and saw 𝐿𝐼 occupied by the other two. The wolf growled and we all froze. Joshua placed himself in front of 𝐵 and I. Josh, don't. 𝐵 spoke, grabbing his arm. The wolf growled again as it took another step closer. What did it want? It definitely wasn't like the last one. It was bigger and these were all gray. They weren't halflings either. They had sense. Actually, they had familiar sense. I acted before thinking and pushed past Joshua and ran towards it until I was at least a meter away. Crystal. Joshua yelled. Not again. I heard him mutter. What are you doing? 𝐵 screamed. I ignored them both and stood right in front of the wolf. I couldn't believe I was doing this once again. Since when did I become the heroic type anyway? I'm the scaredy cat. I've always been the scaredy cat. 𝐿𝐼 you want, isn't it? I asked. The wolf just stared. Its eyes fixed on my neck and it snarled. I was trying to tell you something. 𝐵 spoke, sounding confused. I tried to follow its eyes. And then it clicked. I dug into my top and pulled out the silver chain with my crystal pendant engraved on. It snarled. Almost in approval. Realization hit me. You're a Van Cliff wolf. I spoke in realization. Before the wolf could show any bit of confirmation, another wolf swooped in and shoved it away. With its teeth it bit down into its neck. I gasped as the wolf whimpered, then just grew still. The wolf stepped back, blood on its mouth as it turned to face us. Tristan. He didn't stay long before he jumped after the other two wolves. I turned back and saw Tristan and 4 other wolves chasing the rogues that had now started to run away. I looked at the wolf that I had tried to communicate with. It was still not moving but was clearly still breathing. I rushed up to it and saw the blood gushing out of its neck. I felt a hand on my shoulder. Luna. I turned to see that it was Captain Park with a neutral expression on her face. We'll take care of this. Right now you need to come with us. I stared at the wolf a second longer. My mind was filled with questions. Why was a Van Cliff wolf in Woodfell? And why had it come for me?